Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey. One day after Halloween, I'm glad that everyone survived the night. But we are continuing to celebrate being online for 5 long years. Wow. It's been a treat, but I have my good friend Dustin in the room with me, and we're celebrating his month. So why don't you tell us what movie that we're going to be discussing first tonight?
Well, so for my month, I picked a bunch of films that are in my to-watch pile and have been kind of stuck there for a while. So my mix is a little bit more horror-oriented than the previous couple months have been. And this week, we are doing a double with Eight-Legged Freaks and Tentacles. So we're going to go on about Tentacles after Eight-Legged Freaks. But right now, we're doing Eight-Legged Freaks. And so I always seem to forget what year this movie came out of. 2002 was kind of a weird time. Like, does anybody else who lived through 2001, 2, and 3 feel like that whole thing was kind of like it was kind of a time, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I feel like the PlayStation 2 came out in that window. Also,
yeah, that was kind of. I think in culture we were kind of like it was that time we were transitioning away from the 90s into the 21st century. So,
well, for me, it was my college years, so it was very much a weird transition.
Yeah, heck, I remember in 1999 when we were still worried about Y2K and shit.
Right.
I started high school in 2002, so that's another awkward, another, I guess, marker of that period for me at least.
Yeah, I actually had a pretty similar experience. So I'm going to share something I usually don't let people know about. So in the 2000 to 2002 era, I was briefly homeschooled after some bad experiences with private and public schools. And when I tried going back to public school at my personal insistence, they actually would not accept one of the years of homeschooling I had as a valid year completed. So I'm technically a year behind. So I should have started high school in 2002 with Youth Forest, but I started high school in 2003.
Well, actually, okay. So because I actually ended up having to repeat kindergarten.
I had to repeat ninth grade.
So I should have started kindergarten in 2000. Not kindergarten. I should have started high school in 2001.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I ended up having to get kicked out. I got kicked out of ninth grade due to me walking away from a school for kicking a kid down some stairs for saying something about my mom.
Fucking delinquents in here.
And then
I graduated early in 1990.
Well, as long as no one
to spend 3 months, the last 3 months of 1 year being homeschooled because I threatened to blast a teacher at the private school.
Damn, bro. No, I'm not making light of it. I only went to every class for 1 year of high school. So, I pretty much went optional with the rest of them for the.
And into this turbulent time, did we get a film like Eight-Legged Freaks?
Indeed.
Which has such odd sensibilities. It's a throwback to 50s monster movies, and it largely does feel like that, but it also has this strange kind of, I think Scary Movie was from around this time period, right? It has this almost kind of
the first three
to it.
Scary Movie was 2000, and I think they were probably up to the first or second sequel by this point.
The third movie came out in 2003.
Okay, so we were in Scary Movie 2, Scary Movie 3 time. I'm looking.
And wasn't a Scream 3 in 02 or thereabouts?
The Ring was in 02. Halloween Resurrection was in 02.
Screaming WrestleMania
the
that
movie
year
was in
2002.
Signs was in 2002.
There is a point to this. Like, I think it's important to consider like, the environment that this movie came
Oh yeah,
into.
this
28
is
days
definitely.
later.
I put it right
Oh,
there with
yeah.
like Mars Attack or Evolution, where we were getting a lot of throwback spoof movies
Evolution
to like the
was
50s
definitely a
stuff
good
that
film.
at the same time had like that late 90s, early 2000s comedy vibe to them. And that's pretty fun, man. You know?
The comedy in this does feel a lot like Evolution. Like, I was feeling that as I was rewatching it today. Yeah. I can't wait to go through the special features on my Shout Factory disc. So, also, extra disclosure, I was actually sick over the weekend and on Halloween, like the day before we were recording this, and I've been sick most of today too. So I meant to watch everything on the disc, and that just did not quite get to happen because I had to, like heal. So
Yeah.
well, sleep to heal. So I wish I could have had all the behind the scenes info that I had planned to have, but I have failed you, and I am sorry, audience. How many of you are actually out there? So, but we're gonna do better next week.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, this movie is just like, it's got some like fairly violent action, but it's not terribly graphic, if that makes any sense so far as. And
Right.
overall, it's just like a good ride. Like it's got a lot of good comedy beats in it, and it's something you can just kick back and enjoy. So, of course, Eight-Legged Freaks, to summarize, is about basically this man's exotic spider collection escapes and is exposed to toxic waste, which mutates them into giants, which is a classic 50s big bug story. And we get to see that unfold in this crummy little mining town. So
Basically, the kingdom of the spiders on crack.
it's like Kingdom of the Spiders, except like interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shatner chucking that little girl into the pile of spiders never fails to pique my interest. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I need to get the re-release of that and watch it again. Probably.
It's a fun one, man. It's not good, but it's fun.
The last time I saw Kingdom of the Spiders was literally like on beta cassette as a child. So my memory of it, not too great.
All right.
Well, this film
impressions real quick. Or?
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. So I guess I'll just blast into my first impressions, and then I'll pick somebody to go. It sounds like you were ready to go next, Mo. So I'll give you some time to like collect your thoughts. But
Dave actually had something he was going to say, so maybe we'll work.
I'll just go in screen order then. That'll be fine.
Cool.
So my first impressions of this were I saw it on Sci-Fi Channel at some point in the distant past. I want to say probably like 2004, 2005, something like that. And I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I wasn't really familiar with things that had this kind of tone, so it sort of set in my mind like what a quote-unquote modern horror comedy was at that point, at least for me. And so I had a great time with this. I have a lot of like really fun memories of just seeing this on TV and like organizing Pokemon cards or like talking to somebody on the phone or just kind of memories of high school, really. And so that's kind of what I associated this film with. And so rewatching it today, it was almost a little bit of a connection to that time, but not as much as I think I would have liked. It is, however, really reassuring that the film holds up like as a film. Like it's still funny. Sure, the effects look a little bit dated, but overall, pretty great. Like, and the practical stuff they did, like here and there, awesome. So I was really happy to revisit this, and I can't wait to dive into those special features. So that was my impression, and I guess we are moving on now to Dave's first impression. Dave?
I'm trying to think when I first saw this, because I know I definitely saw it before I met Tammy, but I know that this is one of her favorite spider movies, even though she's like afraid of spiders. I in fact like this movie a lot. There's a lot going for it. It's got comedy, it's got spiders making noises, which they you know, obviously that they do not make noises and they do not act like human beings when it comes to certain things, but they are definitely more human in reaction, and that's something that's enjoyable about this movie. But
There's a lot
it's
of
funny that you
Spider-Man
mentioned
here.
Scream because David Arquette played Officer Doofy on Scream, so
Yep.
I like to think of this as a Dewey side quest that he did in between.
Yeah.
Right.
Ghost
I
Hunt.
like how you still called him Doofy after Scary Movie.
Nice
I think
leveling
he's
up
actually on
quest
record
here.
as saying he hates it when people do that.
Right.
But,
That just makes it funnier, but yeah, go ahead, Dave.
but yeah, it's definitely an enjoyable movie, and it's definitely neat seeing Scarlett Johansson like really young and really hot even then, I enjoy the ride that it gives us, at least every time I see it. So this is a good returnable film each time I see it. So, but on to you, Mo.
I feel like I saw this pretty soon after it came out. I know I rented it, but I feel like it was on VHS, wasn't it? I feel like we were still getting VHS tapes.
Yeah. VHS was like still.
It was around the time VHSs were slowing down and being manufactured. Like they still made a couple things for VHS, but they were kind of not appearing in stores anymore.
Kind of the time that DVD was eclipsing it.
Yeah, it was starting to become more of a thing for sure. I want to say I saw it on VHS, so I could be wrong because I have like a vague recollection of watching it the first time, like in my bedroom on a little combo, like those TVs with a built-in VCR. But that also doesn't mean that I didn't watch it on disc. Yeah, if I watched it on disc, there's a good chance it was on a PlayStation 2, actually. I liked it a lot. I think it's one of those ones that I've grown to love more and more as I've revisited it. Just the same way that I have with Mars Attack or with Evolution. I was definitely more prepared for the style of movie this was, probably because of both of those films. But I would argue that this is probably the stronger one next to Mars Attack. Evolution is still pretty goddamn great, though, so that's a hard choice for me to make. But it's amazing, man. It's like got that perfect sort of 50s creature feature giant bug movie thing going on, but then it's got that perfect comedic sensibility of the time, but then with a little bit of almost a nostalgia vibe that's very familiar to any of us that grew up with like Gremlins. Especially this time watching it, I was like, man, there's hardcore Gremlin vibes going on through a lot of this thing. They're like somebody's pet that got out of control and mutated, and now they're just causing like beautiful chaos in the town. And it's this little tiny small like burg out in the middle of nowhere kind of a thing where they end up sort of cut off. You could probably draw some parallels to Tremors with it as well. It's just a good time, man, from start to finish. Like I said before we got in the chat, I watched it and thought that maybe it was like a little over an hour, and the fact that it's almost an hour and 40 minutes long is just a testament to how fun it is. It's got a great cast up to and including the all-star lineup of dudes we have doing the voices of the spiders. And you got a little Tom Noonan appearance at the beginning with some real gnarly fucking fingernails. So
yeah.
No complaints about that. That guy is an absolute treasure.
He doesn't have gnarly fingernails.
Yeah, I think he
Not
might just
many.
actually have those, and I'm starting to wish that I didn't realize that.
Yeah, like I say, this movie, Last Action Hero.
Did he have gnarly fingernails as Dollarhide and Manhunter? I don't remember. It wouldn't surprise me.
Probably.
I got those looked at, Tom. Don't look healthy, bro. But other than that, I love it. Scarlett Johansson's obviously a treat. David Arquette is just always a blast. I think we're in that perfect age range to have a varied, nostalgia or various nostalgia for that dude, because he was involved in wrestling at the time. He did several movies that, we enjoyed quite a bit as kids. So it's he's one of those dudes I have a surprising amount of nostalgia for that I maybe don't realize all the time, I do agree, though. He's got to get rid of the face whiskers because he's got that tiny, weird little mouth that just does not look good.
Yeah, with as far as some of
It
the
does look like a stripper's crotch, like that lady said. Let's just put it that.
as far as some of the more famous actors that are in this, it's kind of so long ago. Like I really didn't recognize them like right away. Like I had to kind of stare at David Arquette, like, and remove his mustache in my brain to be like, yeah, that's David Arquette. And Scarlett Johansson, like, I didn't even know she was in this until I read the back of a case of the
Same
Blu-ray.
here. Yeah.
It was like, really? Where? And she's like a main character, isn't she? Like, you cannot tell it's her. It doesn't
It's the
sound
sheriff's daughter.
like her. It's nuts. Like,
Right.
I thought she was the sheriff's daughter.
Well, it's like I said, I
She's
did
a
a double
sheriff's daughter. You
take.
can quite tell
I
it's
did
her.
a double take when I first watched this. I was like, she's not the sheriff. She was too young. But Carrie
Good perfect
Werwer
casting for her
does
mom right
look
there.
like her. And for a split second, I was like, no, she's not the sheriff. And then the daughter showed up, and I was like, oh, yeah.
It's one of those rare cases where I 1000% buy that that's her mom, because they just look so similar. And yeah, it was that part I definitely forgot that she was in this when I went into watching it today. So I think I saw it pop up in the credits, though, the opening bit, and I was like, well, wait, what?
Exactly. So some things about this movie is still catching me off guard. I also want to add, you mentioned possibly seeing this on VHS. I think we might have had a VHS of this through one of those movie clubs. The last VHS I can remember ever like purchasing, I think, was Return of the King or The Two Towers, which would put kind of the death of VHS
The Two
around.
Towers.
Yeah.
The Two Towers was definitely in 2002. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
and
those
I
initially
know
on.
that
In years, exactly.
I know I got
Well, if
my
it helps,
first
the
two
last
DVDs in
commercially
01.
produced VHS was A History of Violence, also with Viggo Mortensen, right around, I think, 2003
I
or
believe.
4. There you go. Sorry to cut you off, Jake.
What's up?
Oh, I thought I cut you off there, so I was just apologizing. But yeah, that's the last,
no, that's fine.
mass-produced commercial VHS we got was History of Violence. Apparently, it's worth some money if you find it, but I don't know if that's true.
There probably weren't a whole lot of those made, honestly. Like, I used to play
Right.
some card games that got retired, and cards from the last set of those card games tend to be slightly more valuable because not so many of them were produced for very long.
Right.
So I would assume it would be the same with that VHS tape. So anyway,
Probably.
I think we're probably done with your impressions, Mo. How about we move
Oh,
on
yeah,
to the line
sure.
to Forest? Let me know if you're ready, buddy.
Me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. First impression. Okay, so I remember seeing commercials for this when it came out, but I never got around to. I only got around to watching it just for the first time today, which I'm surprised I didn't. Yeah, because I'm surprised because I definitely someone as someone who's into like trauma and cheesy horror monster movies, I'm surprised it took me 20 years to get around to watching this, especially with such a stacked cast.
This
this is right
totally
up
do
our
your
alley,
thing.
sort of.
Yeah. Like, what'd you think, man?
It was that was a pretty. I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I sort of feel like it does for like monster. It did for monster movies. What Scream did for what Scream, and I know what you did last summer for slasher flicks, where it's basically a big budget B movie, and it's aware that it's a big budget B movie. And it has a lot, it's got a lot of, it has a lot of, and they totally have fun. And it's sort of like a precursor, I guess, to Snakes on a Plane in that sense, in that it knows it's silly, it's stupid, and it runs with it. And it works.
It's a lot of the DNA of this stuff that ended up in stuff like Slither as
Yes.
well. It's kind of in the
Well,
same spirit.
Oh, good comparison. Yeah.
And also, you mentioned Evolution, which came out the year before this.
Yeah.
And one could also say a different kind of monster movie, but this was hot on the heels of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, which were gloriously cheesy, fun action monster movies, basically.
Yep, that were also throwbacks too. So we were getting a lot of that shit for a while there.
Yeah. But yeah, it was special effect. I think they were adequate for it's for a moderately budgeted not big budget, but like a moderately budgeted monster movie. I think the special well, I guess I should say that for the later portion of the show, but I think that it looked good. It was a lot of fun. Great, and again, great cast. Yeah, I was surprised to see Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson in this movie, especially because she was so young and kind of early in her career, just right before Lost in Translation, and then also Carrie Were because who was primarily known for you'd see her on MTV or in like some late night skin flick, but seeing her in this was a surprise too. Dougie Doug, whom I haven't.
Hell yeah, Stanka baby.
Yeah, Dougie Doug. I haven't seen him.
Kiss the egg.
I haven't seen him in anything since the '90s, so that was another surprise.
Operation Dumbo drop. Pretty sure we'd all rather forget that shit.
Cool Runnings.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I enjoy. Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a very fun flick.
Honestly, even considering the 50s throwback big bug vibe, the most dated thing about the movie is the soundtrack and the new metal posters on Scarlett's wall.
Oh yeah,
that POD poster just.
Actually, I noticed like she had that Kid Rock American Badass poster, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah,
back when he used to do like actual music.
I must have edited that out of my viewing.
You're better for it, my friend.
Well, the first okay, I'm gonna surprise people here. Like the first year or two and stuff, I think Kid Rock was actually okay.
Yeah,
and then he lost his goddamn mind.
I was big into Kid Rock when I was in middle school, and that's something I cringe at now.
I'm not proud of it, but we've all.
I like Kid Rock, and I still do. So I don't give a shit who likes it or not.
That and see, there's an example. We could be there. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's okay. It's all good.
I like what I like. Sorry if some people don't have good taste.
Someone's got to buy those albums,
Oh, I didn't say I was buying albums, but
Good man, steal those. That's the way.
So, do you finish for us?
No, I will probably like Corn forever. That's all.
Yes. Well,
this is mostly in jest.
I'd say like Corn up to Follow the Leader.
Agreed. Some songs on Issues.
I still like their current stuff usually. Like, there's almost always one or two songs that I really vibe with.
Fair. I suppose that's kind of how I am with Slipknot these days. So, you were saying, Jacob. Tell us your story.
Oh, I guess. Are we continuing on?
When did you first see this, Jacob? Tell us.
Well,
you don't have to admit that you had the Kid Rock CD either. It's there's been enough of that today.
I do have one single with him on it somewhere in the collection. I know that. But that's he flirted with being tolerable for a while and then lost himself up his ass. But anyway,
dang diggy diggy, my friend. Let's hear that.
This I'm probably going to surprise some people by saying that this is one that I actually was aware of on release and did watch not long after. And I have had a copy in the collection for a long time. In fact, this is how long I've had a copy. It actually, for a while, was something that was kind of an odd one out. I mean, you guys know where my movie tastes tend. And I mentioned this came out toward the end of my college years. I was hardcore into my snooty critic phase at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, I was willing to dabble in the occasional Mummy or something along those lines, but I could not look at this movie seriously. But it was right on the heels of Ghost World, which I saw 3 times in theaters, and The Man Who Wasn't There. And I was very enamored of Scarlett Johansson at the time. And she was on the short list of people. There were Jenna Malone, Johnny Depp, a couple other folks that I was actively trying to collect everything they were in. And I picked up a copy of this ages ago. I also like David Arquette. And I figured, what the hell, I'd give it a go. And I liked it. I was surprised that I enjoyed it. I don't remember exactly how long ago I got it, and I don't remember for sure if I've seen it once or twice. I think I saw it and then went back and bought it later, which means I would have seen it twice, but it's been probably 15, 16 years since the last viewing. But it was one that... of course, as the years have gone on, my collection's gotten a lot more varied. And since I've started talking with you fine folks, needless to say, a cheesy monster movie no longer seems like an odd one out.
Yeah, we've had an influence on you purchasing a lot of shit.
Right. But I would say,
anymore.
Even among the ones that I've seen since I've been on this channel, I'd still say this one holds up really well. It does have a lot of the same vibe as Evolution. I could not tell you, I really don't know when I first saw Evolution, whether it was before or after this one, but they really do have a lot of the same vibe. And it's, here's a great little connection. I don't know if y'all noticed. Evolution co-stars Ted Levine, and this one has a little cameo from Tom Noonan. So we got the original Francis Dollarhide and Buffalo Bill between these two movies. Yeah. That's a fun little connection there.
Oh man, as the guy who played Lecter in Mars Attacks, that would make it absolutely perfect. I'm going to look that up right now.
If which one? Yeah, isn't Brian...
The dude who originally played Hannibal Lecter, if he's in Mars Attacks, that will be perfect destiny lining up right here for this.
I don't know, but that intrigues
There's a huge
me.
Cast in Mars Attacks, so I can't remember if he's in it or not. But
it's
easier
to
seems
say
like the type of movie he might have done.
It's easier to say who wasn't in that one. But man, well, I don't know. Looks like Brian Cox wasn't in that one. Well, not for trying, not for a lack of trying.
Almost had a perfect turkey right
almost. There. But I will say this one, there are some things about it that are still a little iffy for me. I am not a fan of large spiders. And there are a couple of scenes here that genuinely kind of creep me out. But I think they hit the perfect blend. Dustin, you kind of touched on this already. I think they kind of hit the perfect blend of practical effects and special effects and realism versus cheesiness to where they're more or less believable as giant spiders, but not so much that it would genuinely give me nightmares. You know what I mean?
They look pretty solid in most scenes. I mean, there's a few like bad CGI shots. And it's not even like bad CGI. It's just like the best they could do at the time CGI.
And the coolest thing about it is that the orb weavers we keep seeing over and over and over again. I might be wrong, and I know, Dustin, you're the other nature person. You might have an idea one way or the other. But I feel like they may have fudged some of the facts on what orb weavers actually do. But the males looked a lot like Argiope trafasciata, the banded orb weaver, which I recently found for the first time ever in Montvale, Virginia. I see the black and yellow all the time, the Arentiaca, but I have never seen the banded one. And I just found one a month ago, and here they are in this movie, or something that looks just like them. So I'm glad the one I saw was about 3 inches across. But at any rate, yeah, I like this one. I think it's fun. It has a little bit of a. I did see them growing up, and there's a little bit of that vibe in there as well. It's just a fun movie. It has some fun, good script to it, and I mean, yeah, it is surprisingly well written for this kind of movie. They did a good job, and it was. I'm glad we got to revisit it.
Alrighty.
right,
How about
so, Tammy.
you, Tammy?
Yeah, that's it was definitely not my first time. I remember the first time I watched this, my dad thought he was being funny because I don't like spiders. He knows I don't like spiders, but he knows I like
Classic.
to watch spider movies. So he likes to tease me. So he's like, I got a spider movie for you. And I remember the whole time we were watching it, because we already talked about how spiders don't make noises, And the first time the spiders make noises, he's sitting there laughing his butt off, going, "See, spiders don't make noises. That's what makes this so great. Keep watching, And so he just thought it was. He thought it was great. He thought all the effects and everything were great in it, and I had a fun time watching it the very first time with him. Um, and I've had fun watching it since then. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I do own it, but yeah. I mean, I always enjoy rewatching it. I think part of the reason is the first time I watched it, I had so much fun with my dad. But the movie itself, I think, is fun because me not liking spiders, I still get a kick out of this, because how I don't know, how can you not? You've got the terror because they're huge spiders, but then they make noises which they're not supposed to, so that makes you laugh. And then they get hurt, like somebody else mentioned, like people, and then it's got a little bit of everything in it. I mean, you got your fun and your drama and your terror and your blood and guts. You got a little bit of everything in it. So it's like, how could you not really enjoy it? It's fun. So
Oh yeah, it's like perfect beer and popcorn shit for the whole family.
kind of, because I don't think it's like overly gross
Nah,
or
yeah, it doesn't
things.
quite hit that level where you would feel bad showing it to like your 10-year-old niece or nephew or something.
Right. It's at that right point where, like I said, it's got a little bit of everything, but it's not over the top on any one thing. It's got all of it, So,
Yeah.
and
This would be a good beer and popcorn one. I don't believe I've quite used that combo with it, but it would be fun.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, give it a try, man. You'll have a good time.
I think my dad actually had beer and popcorn when we watched it. Come to think of it.
Think of the drinking games you could do. Like, I don't know, every
Yeah.
time someone says spider.
Well, I know the
Take a
first time
shot
I
every
watched
time you
this,
lock eyes with David Arquette's tiny little mouth.
Well, my dad had a 55
It does
inch
tend to
screen.
draw the eye, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's another Bill Pullman looking like person.
Well, I do know the first time I watched this, my dad had a 55-inch screen, and he has got the sound system. Believe
Oh,
me,
wow.
So what
He
you're
has
saying
got
is
the
David
sound
Arquette's mouth
system.
looked like normally proportioned to his to a human body. Then.
And everybody else is too big.
So all I know is the first time you see one of the big spiders on his TV was just like, wow, big spider. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
admit
sounds
one thing
great.
that probably helped me on this time was watching it on my computer, so the big spiders are still kind of small. But yeah, I could imagine if I had seen this in theaters, I've been like,
I don't know if I would have wanted to see this thing in the theater, man.
Oh
Especially
yeah,
like-
there's a couple
especially in
solid
3D.
jump scares in it too.
Especially in 3D, watching 3D in the theater.
My dad's
that'd
55-inch
be fun.
screen was actually quite big enough for me at the first time.
I don't know though. The idea of the train wreck syndrome or whatever. If I ever saw a double bill of this and arachnophobia, I would be so tempted to go do that. Just I
Actually, I
don't
would
know.
That sounds
too.
great.
Arachnophobia is one of my
It,
favorite.
it is a
That's a
great
fun one.
combination.
But I guess we're going on to you then, Kroll.
Well, I actually thought I saw this and enjoyed it. I was half right. I did enjoy it, but I hadn't seen it before. I must have been confusing with another movie. But yeah, it's a great cast. I love David Arquette. He's great and everything I've seen him in. Love Scarlett Johansson either. I realized it was her. Obviously a lot younger, but it definitely looked like her to me. I came in just as you guys were discussing it, so I didn't hear everything you said. But yeah, she looked like me. She looked like Scarlett Johansson to me. Probably about 18 there. But I enjoyed the movie. Again, I hate spiders too. But like you said, the making noise, it just kind of made it feel like it was fun, even though it did kind of somewhat, like you guys said, look realistic, but not too realistic to give nightmares. So I think arachnophobia was a lot more realistic. Still didn't get nightmares from that, but yeah, I hate spiders, especially tarantulas. So of course the really big one has to be the tarantula, but they didn't really show the
I like
full.
tarantulas. I don't like spiders.
Oh fuck that. Especially the full tarantula didn't really show a lot. Like show a lot of the legs or a little bit of this and that. And they don't really show the full thing too much, which is a good thing in my opinion. But I actually, I really like. Now I wouldn't want to meet one in real life, but the trap spider is just the whole idea of it is interesting to me. It's like just like one of those Vietnam spiders, just hiding and pops and grabs
Oh,
the
Yeah.
the
prey.
trapdoors.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yeah, that
so
was one part
cool.
that I found a little like hard to watch because it's like, yeah, that's really nasty and fucked up. I don't like that.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It is. But it was. I don't know. I like that the best. The
It is
trapdoor spider. It's just
Oh, it's a cool scene.
just all of them. I mean, there was quite a few that they had with the trapdoor spider. Like with the ostriches, which I was kind of surprised because ostriches
Oh
are,
yeah,
really,
yeah.
are vicious animals, and those spiders kind of took them out quick. So
Ostriches are the scariest creatures in the fucking thing, dude.
the
I never
cat.
can wrap my head around ostriches. It's a if there is a higher power, they let like their toddler kid draw that creature on the day it was created.
Yeah. Like the cat seemed to do way better against that spider in the beginning than
Yeah,
the
the
ostrich.
cat
Yeah,
threw
that
down.
poor cat.
The
But
cat
the-
was trying to fuck it up. And
But the
was
cat knew
fighting
kung
good.
fu, so good on him.
Yeah, the cat was fighting good, but in the end, it lost. But yeah, we didn't actually get to see the fight, but we heard it. We kind of saw it through the wall. That was pretty cool too. That was pretty cool effects with the
Oh,
yeah.
first you
I
see the
don't know
cat
how
and then you see the
drywall works,
spider.
but it was fun.
Yeah, it was some of the goofier effects, but they were amusing.
Oh, it's super super fun. I don't think it would. I don't think they could make it look good, like better, and it be as fun. Like it was just really really
Oh,
fun.
dude, and then
I
how
think.
broke up Pete was afterwards, and then he blames it on his dairy aversion or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and his wife leaves him over it. Like, well, you didn't finish the wall, so the cat got in there, and now he's dead. So it's your fault. I guess that was the
Maybe not
thing.
wrong, but
No,
yeah.
I wouldn't say she was.
But no, I mean it's only been a month. Shit, that's not that long to fucking fix things. Sometimes you hear about husbands not, taking years.
You just push a box in front of it or something. Though,
Really,
so they can't
fucking a month.
keep killing
Yeah.
it there. But I think that was honestly, as we start to dive into it here, obviously we've got to talk about I forget his name now, the guy that Tom Noonan played, but the
Joshua.
fact that they had so many different varieties of spiders was
Yeah.
a great touch. I mean, they easily could have phoned it in and just had it be giant spiders, full stop.
Yeah,
Like,
they really did good. And I want to mention one thing on that, which
They
I
did
could have
homework.
mentioned. I probably should have mentioned this in the first go round. I'm surprised I forgot to mention arachnophobia in the first go round. But one thing I will give them mad props for is I am very, very, very happy they did not include Black Widows in this, because that is one that will still wig me out to this day.
Even
I
worse than
don't need to
Tarantula?
see them blown up that
I would say
big.
Black Widow getting chased by Black Widows.
Yeah, Black Widow's yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
that would have
could've
been
been cool.
amusing. That would have been amusing. But I will say though that Black Widow is pretty much the archetypal spider of our fears, and I think they did well
Tarantula.
to skirt around that and do other types instead.
Now we need one with Black Widows.
Not
Is
just
it
to be a contrarian, but they did come just this far away from making the big queen kind of look
yeah.
like a Black Widow.
Oh yeah,
So
they
there
came
was
close.
they
I
subtly
personally
put a
don't.
little of that.
Black Widows don't really scare me that much. The tarantulas that get me, I just
Yeah.
fucking more than anything.
Well,
I mean,
we've established
they
you're weird,
do and
but
they
anyway.
don't, but they don't give me nightmares. The tarantulas can give me nightmares.
But as I said in our chat, though, with that first few scenes with Joshua, I saw him and I'd forgotten Tom Noonan was in the movie, and he's uncredited if I remember correctly. But I'm like, oh, I know that guy. And then I was like, I thought it was Tom Noonan, but I looked it up and I was like, oh, it is. Holy crap. And I loved his performance as the character. I thought he was a fun character, and I kind of hated to see him go so early on. But on the other hand, like I said, the fucker was importing illegally spiders into this country and juicing them on something he knew was making them much bigger than they had any right to be. And he was gleefully enjoying the whole process. There is a special place in hell for people like that.
When he died, I cheered. I was like, how's it you get, you fucker? You get.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, in reality, probably true. I thought of it in just badass B movie logic. Like, oh, here's this sweet bug weirdo that's like, let's make some big spiders. What could possibly go wrong? I did really like his relationship with the kid. It seems mildly creepy at first, but then it's like, oh no, these guys are totally just bros that nerd out about bugs out here in this weird fucking shack.
And I liked that the kid was a total spider nerd. I did like that, and it ended up helping them all throughout the movie.
Yeah, when they
big props to that kid too for not being an overly annoying fucking kid character. I actually really liked him quite a bit.
And big props to Arquette's character for actually saying, let's listen to the kid, because he's right. They don't do that very often.
Him right away, about it. And, he's like, no one believes him because I'm just a kid. He's like trying it. And he's like, well, it does look like whatever he said. And the kid's like, see? But he didn't remember what the kid said. And the first thing, as soon as he saw one that he knew was definitely a spider, like he brought it to the kid, like he was an expert, and so he realized right away, the kid does know what he's talking.
Speaking of kids, the only spider that I actually like is this guy made. It's called Lucas the Spider. This guy made it, and it plays on cartoon. I think it's there's a whole bunch of segments on YouTube, and you could actually get the plush of it, which I did. But it's actually cute, and it's for kids. He made it. He made this whole thing up because of his nephew or whatever being afraid of spiders. So he came up with Lucas the Spider as a way to teach his nephew or whatever not to be afraid of spiders. So it's actually a kind of cute thing. The funny thing was when I ordered the plush of Lucas the Spider, I was visiting my father, and the thing on my phone dinged that I had a delivery. And my dad goes, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, my Lucas is here. And he goes, what's a Lucas? And I told him a spider. And and I showed him a picture of this plush spider. And he looks at me and he goes, you don't like spiders and you order a stuffed spider?
I'm saying, you catch me dead with more than one of those.
But
Yeah,
Lucas,
that sounds adorable, but I shan't spare any mercy for any spiders, so I will fight him, but I'll let him live. Now, how about my
Lucas,
dynamite?
you guys, he's
I
really
like Daddy Long Legs.
You guys would like Lucas if you saw him. He's cute.
Oh, probably. I like spiders, like, not in my presence, you know? So spider movies are rad. I like them in artwork. Weirdly, this is kind
Spider-Man.
of two parallels to The Hobbit tonight, in that I'm pretty sure those orb weavers are basically what the spiders in The Hobbit are supposed to be.
Lucas is supposed to be a
And
jumping.
I just read that chapter last night and then watched this movie today. And then Gandalf from the animated Hobbit movie is in tentacles. So both of these kind of like paired up real nice with my current read of the Hobbit. Not that that's I just thought that worth mentioning. Anyways,
Well, if you ever want to see something cute, just look up Lucas the spider. He's supposed to be a
I'll
jumping
do that
spider,
right now.
and
Good
he's
times.
cute.
So, Dustin, I'm sure we didn't mean to bogart your discussion here. Did you?
It was fine. You guys just kind of went with it, so I was letting you do it.
That never happened.
Well, I was trying to lead us in the direction here. I mean, you know, so basically it opens up on that little kid going out to Tom Noonan's Spider Shack. And they have, like, you know, their little talk. Tom's been harvesting like some radioactive crickets or some shit by the local water hole to feed to these spiders, and they're getting big and thick with 2 C's, if you know what I'm saying.
And more aggressive.
Kid leaves. He gets bit by a friggin' tarantula that he's just letting wander around, I guess. I don't know.
No, it escaped.
And
It escaped while we were watching it. It got out, and he didn't even know it got out. He was talking to the kid, and so so when the kid
I must have
left,
been
it
so
caught
focused
him.
on what they were saying that I wasn't really registering that
Yeah.
that's what happened. I thought it was like a docile house pet or something.
Trust me,
but
I was sitting there
it
going,
bit him, and
shit, it's out.
he just absolutely panics, which seemed real excessive, especially being a spider guy. It would stand to reason that he'd been bit before. So normally you don't just freak the fuck out and start
knock
thrashing
all
all your
heads over
spider
in front of
shells.
all
If a
those.
spider bites you in the
this day.
neck, I think if a spider comes up and bites you in the neck, you're probably going to be a little flustered, at least.
Yes. But from the way I understand it, a tarantula bites very close to like a bee sting, basically. So maybe don't go
Depends
ECW
on the
on all your
species.
spider shells, you know.
Definitely
I
depends
suppose
on the
it's
species.
also true, but again, it just seemed like a comical overreaction. But how else is he supposed to free literally all the spiders and get absolutely covered in them? I mean, it was so. I'm not complaining. But yeah, pretty much, you know, simultaneously, this small town is embroiled in a dispute over the property rights and getting everybody to like sell to this corporation that's trying to buy them out. The mayor wants everybody to sell. A lot of other locals do, but a lot don't. And it turns out they're trying to buy out the place because they've been dumping radioactive waste in these old disused mines or around them for quite some time. And that's basically what led to the spiders being genetically fucked up. They're little toxic Avenger spiders. It's pretty much what's going on here. And yeah, I think that kind of brings us into the introduction of the rest of the characters, if you guys want. I mean, so fire away, my dudes.
Well, I think we had previously met our Winsome sheriff, and she goes and runs across her son coming back from the place that he is not supposed to visit, and she's taking him home, and they come across a group of wayward teens, and that's where we meet, you know, the daughter and her jerk-off boyfriend and a couple other jerks. And then, meanwhile, we see Arquette show up in town, and he apparently is the son of the former mine owner, who has something to say about the mayor's plans.
Yeah, he's not going to sell the mine because he's pretty sure his dad was on to, I think, like this gigantic gold vein that was down there. Everyone thought his dad was just crazy towards the end or something. That's one part I was confused on. How did his dad die? Was he sick and just rambling this shit to people? Or did he get like methane poisoning? or both.
Could be.
You
I don't know. I don't think they even
Um,
said it. I don't.
Yeah, they don't fully elaborate. It's just implied that
And
his
he-
dad
he
was saying a
died
bunch of
and-
crazy shit before he died, and everyone just wrote it off as a symptom of
Well,
whatever
this is
was
one of the
going on.
I
reasons
think
that
it has something to do with the methane because when they went back in the mine and he told everybody, you need to make sure you're wearing your masks at all times and everything. And the other guy said to him, he goes,
Oh, that's
well,
right.
it makes more sense than your dad or something.
well
So
Yeah, and he
that
said, "I'm not going to make the same mistakes he did," or whatever.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
I think
and then
you're
they
right.
said we taught you well, or glad you learned what we taught you, or something like that.
and it's probably not just the methane. There's a reason why mining sucks. Well, a few reasons, and one of them is that it releases toxins. And I mean, the coal miners, of course, have their black lung. From what I understand, silver miners typically get very heavily poisoned. I'm not sure gold mines are as bad for that, but
You don't
yeah,
hear about it as
it
much.
was probably more than just methane he was dealing with.
Right. But I mean, basically the mayor doesn't want to believe that there's this big vein of gold down there. So he's just trying to sell up all the land and let them dump a bunch of toxic waste in it. He's a pretty sweet scumbag. He also has an ostrich farm.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts is where they're like, in that dumbass ostrich farm. And he's like, look, the meat's nutritious and it's delicious or something.
I remember
Right.
him being on Saving Grace.
And then there's a scene later where he's like, finishes a burger, and he's like, "Damn, Edith, that was a one good ostrich burger." I love that, dude. He's such a fun.
Oh, is that what he said it was?
Yeah.
yeah, he
So
said
they're
that. I
actually
was
serving
like,
those
"Ugh."
ostrich burgers at that local diner in the movie. It's badass. There's a lot of little subtle humor like that in this film. Like when he's running away and he knocks over that mannequin in the mall, and it lands in the fucking crotch of that other mannequin, and it's like a split-second little chuckle joke, but it's just
I missed that.
stuff like that in there.
Well,
What's
he
that,
owns
Dustin?
the mall too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He
There's
does,
a
yeah.
weird cut too.
Yeah, because
They-
he's
they
like,
spend some time.
Go ahead.
No, you keep going.
I was
I
saying,
thought-
yeah, because he says, build it and they will come when they all start flying into the mall because the spiders are chasing them.
Well, because that first meeting that town hall meeting was at the mall, and
Was
they pretty openly mocked him for making the mall in the first place. They were like,
See,
and
but
then
he
what
also had a decent reason of why it failed. I mean, they scrapped the plans for the interstate, so it was
yeah.
Well, yeah,
unfortunately, a
isn't the
pretty
town
realistic
isn't the
thing that
town
happens
called
sometimes.
Prosperity or something
Think
like
so.
that?
Right. Which the nice
And then the
tradition of
ostrich farm, I
ironically
mean-
named Western towns.
Prosperity, Arizona.
The dude was a scumbag for sure, but not the worst kind. I mean, it was clear that he tried several other ways to save the town before he was just like, sure, let's dump some toxic waste then, and you can pay us for it.
Get rich quick schemes.
He was obviously trying to build prosperity for prosperity,
Yeah.
which is what a mayor's supposed to do. It's just he had several failed attempts.
Yeah, well, I got the impression
he
was
chose evil. You know what I mean?
I got the impression he was more on about filling his own pockets, and if the town benefited in the meantime, then that would be awesome, because then he could stay mayor of a
true.
profitable town.
Exactly. But I mean, to his credit, he was patronizing the diner and eating one of those ostrich burgers. So he was quite literally
Right.
putting his money where his mouth is, at least,
This is true, and he was quite
But yeah,
literally the only
basically-
customer.
He also was. Yeah, I don't imagine there's a huge run on ostrich burgers.
Well, yeah,
I would
he
try
did
one,
say,
though.
"Oh, you're slow today." She's like, "We're always slow."
Yeah, this is life, dude. So basically, Sergeant Dewey shows up and claims his mine, and it doesn't even really start a feud. The dude's just kind of like, oh, that's kind of not cool, he's not a super evil mayor. He's just a dick. So pretty much, he's setting about getting the mine up and going again. And this kid has realized that these spiders broke out and are growing exponentially larger. His mom, the sheriff, doesn't believe him because he's a little monster movie kid that likes spiders, and apparently that means he's weird and you can't listen to him. But he makes perfect sense.
I
And it
love
turns out that's-
when his mother says, "Oh, it's just your." What did she say? Imagination, something
Or
about
media
it.
fueled paranoid delusion.
Yeah,
or
and then
something like that.
he says it
Yeah.
back when she's like, what is that? And Chase just like, oh, it's just my media films.
Yeah, one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, that is great.
Oh yeah, when he
It's
says that
effective.
back to her, it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah. There you go, kid.
I'd forgotten that was a callback to something from between them, because it kind of almost could be a callback to pretty much any scene with Dougie Doug, but you know.
Yeah. The probes, man.
Yeah. Keep the probes away from me.
Well,
the,
that's
I like
what-
how the
the only thing I'm
that's what
gonna
that
add,
was.
the only thing I'm gonna add with our villain mayor is that he's the kind of villain who's like not malevolent, but just kind of a dumbass. So
Yeah.
I thought that made him kind of
Actually,
easier to forgive near the end.
given our other movie tonight, Tentacles, of course, is obviously a Jaws ripoff, and they didn't really have a mayor character in that one, but this guy definitely, I think, is cut from the same cloth as the mayor in Jaws. Like in terms
yeah.
of just the guy who just will not look a problem until it's staring him right in the face, and then he'll still try to talk his way out of it if he thinks it'll make him look good.
Yeah, definitely, man. I feel like he probably would have tried to find a way to profit off the spiders if he could have, but shit just got way too crazy, way too fast by the point that he was like made aware of the spiders. So basically, you know, the kid tries to get everyone to listen. They really don't, but by that point, the spiders are kind of haven't spread quite as far or grown quite as big. I think really the point of the movie where the full-on spider violence finally kicks off is basically the scene with the dirt bike kids, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm also not mistaken, was heavily
Maybe.
used in the trailers for this movie back in the day.
I believe so.
I think that was pretty much the whole trailer.
Yeah, I
wasn't it?
feel like that was
How
Yeah,
could you not
the-
use
the rock
jumping
attack?
spiders?
dirt bike.
That rock attack. I like that. We
Well,
call
that's
that the
Actually-
rock attack.
finally,
You know,
The one with the
another
dirt bikes.
funny. What's up?
the one with the dirt bikes is when you finally like are hearing them make noises too. That's what like
Yeah.
that's when you first start actually laughing at this movie. I think
Sound
is
like
when is the dirt bike part.
it
And
sounded like the
another-
fleas jumping on an animal. Wee wee wee.
Yeah. Well, another fun little tie-in to like preparing for this one. Recently, I don't know how it's kind of shown up on my thread. I don't remember from where, but I think it's on my Instagram thread. I've been seeing this one particular person keeps posting all these videos of jumping spiders. Like they have like pet jumping spiders, and they have all these videos for them. And I've also encountered quite a few jumping spiders. And first of all, they have those huge forward-facing eyes, which really does give them
Yeah.
a face in a way that a lot of spiders don't have. But they're really, their eyesight is excellent, and they are also very curious. They almost behave like the cats of the spider world, you might say, if that makes sense. And so they're very personable. And so I could definitely see they had to have jumping spiders in this movie. I think they could have gone a little further with bringing out, as someone said earlier, the spiders act too human. If they had really, really gone into it, amplifying existing traits, they could have made the jumping spiders downright, it would have been interesting. But even so,
Dude, they
seeing
could have
them
befriended
hunt-
one like they do with that fucking ant in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That would have made my heart sing, bro.
Well, that's kind of
Well-
how that guy made Lucas. Lucas is
Yeah.
supposed to be a jumping spider,
Aha.
and in the
Oh,
and all
man.
the little cartoons.
Then they could have it valiantly sacrifice itself to save the kid at the end, and I would have cried.
He's very
But-
curious with all his little friends and the little
Right.
things that they make, and he is a jumping spider. So
It's like I said, though, they could have probably done more to differentiate them from the other spiders. But even so, just keeping in mind the fact that they can jump pretty friggin' far given their size, and that they do have really big fangs relative to their size, etc., etc. They definitely made formidable foes, and it's like I said, I think it was a good call to use them. I think they just had maybe a slightly missed opportunity, but where we're introduced to them again was that one dude, the mayor's adopted son, I guess. He calls him Wade, so I'm not really sure how close they are. But
Yeah,
like he lives with them,
or stepfather or something. I don't know.
something like that.
Yeah, she says it's his stepdad at one point.
Okay. Oh yeah, they did say that. But he also has, of course, he's with Scarlett Johansson, or trying to be with Ashley, I think her name is. And so he had that great scene. it's like I said, in the comments, I'm like, okay, so Scarlett Johansson dumps you by tasering you in the nuts, making you piss yourself.
Well, she didn't even dump him,
pushed you
really.
out the car. He goes and gets mocked by his friends for pissing himself, and then watches as they get killed one after the other by these ginormous spiders. And I'm like, I'm glad I've never had a day quite that bad.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
He's turned around a little bit, but
I mean, okay, maybe he should have been trying to cop a feel, but I think he got a little more punishment than he deserved.
yeah.
And she took his truck.
She did. She jumped in his truck and left him there. To die.
He stole his truck, and he gets trapped in a mine for the better part of the movie with being pissed by that kid. Got it fucking way worse than he deserved.
Yeah, he may have been a little bit
though.
fresh with her, and he was a little bit of a jerk, but he
well,
got
she
it
was
worse
happy
than
to
he
see
needed.
him at the end. Like when she saw him, she came over and hugged him. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't think she broke up
Well,
with him.
he
She
kind
just
of
let him know
redeemed
that
himself
you can't cop a feel
making
right
sure
now.
that they saved his stepdad, even though that guy was like didn't give a shit about him at all. So,
Yeah.
because I think Scarlett Johansson even says like, let's just go and leave him here, basically, and that guy's like, nah, we're gonna cut him down. What's that, Dustin?
That is one of the more memorable things from kind of the early scene phases of the film. When like her mom gives her the stun gun, and she's like, "Well, I'm not going to end up, 16 and pregnant like you," and it's like kind of a mean thing to say.
Try sheriff.
Exact situation, and has to use the stupid stun gun. And she was like, "My mom was right." Oh, and it's like,
yeah.
That guy was kind of a
no. Just a note on,
but still,
just a note on that, on the casting. We said before, like the two of them really favored each other, and it was great. But even the idea of, I was thinking to myself by the end, is Carrie Warner really old enough to be like, I could probably buy that she was 16 when she had her. But I looked it up, and she's like 23 years older than Johansson. So it's like,
she is old
it
enough.
actually works. And I'm like, wow, she looked good for her age if she was that much older.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she was a hottie.
Yeah. But
anyway. like that kid said, like, best looking sheriff around,
Well, I like how the other kid followed it up with, "Yeah, it's kind of weird, actually." Like,
I wonder if she wears
hot cops bug me
G-string
out,
or
man.
panties.
I've dealt with several of them, and it always is kind of like, damn, this feels like extra embarrassing than it normally would,
It probably won't help you to flirt.
You never know till you try, though, man. Hike up that skirt, Jake. Could get out of a ticket or two.
I mean, it seems to work good for the girls with the guys, but it doesn't ever seem to work the other way around.
So basically, I guess you could say the secondary stage where the movie really lights the fuck up is once there is the attack sort of simultaneously on David Arquette's house, and then later on, the sheriff's house. That's where shit really breaks loose in the film, and it's like the spiders are actually reaching the town, and they've got to figure out how to warn people. Simultaneously to that, or prior, I should say, during the whole jumping spider dirt bike sequence, the telephone lines were knocked out. Yeah. So the town is essentially cut off from outside assistance and about to be, stormed by a whole horde of spiders.
we should probably mention before that there was a rash of missing pets, and of course,
And
every
ostriches.
and ostriches, yes. The
They called the
the
fish and
yeah.
game comedian. They're like, well, it's not fish. We can't help.
Yeah. Our poor deputy keeps getting besieged by all these calls, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, but yeah, and again, I gotta say, one of the parts that depressed me about the movie, that made me sad, I didn't like seeing the cat go. I did like that it was a fighter, and it clearly made that spider fight for its meal.
Well, yeah, you could see the imprints of the cat's paws and its whole entire body across the whole.
At least the cat fought. The dog just got nailed. That was funny.
Yeah.
I didn't like seeing the cat go either, but it
It
was
fought.
funny.
It fought.
Was funny.
Yeah. It did sound like he was doing like cat food, like.
It was
I
amazing.
mean, when
I think what I would have done.
You hear that thump. It was like, oh man. I was hoping.
See,
it was
I think what I would have done is done all of that.
I was hoping the spider would come out with the cat would come out with like the spider in his mouth, like, yeah, fuck you.
See,
Right.
I think the better way to take it would be to do everything like they did, but that at the end have like a post-credit scene where it reveals that actually the cat and the spider have fallen in love inside of the walls, and they're now raising.
Yeah, you're a widow.
No, it was one of those jumping spiders actually, and they were now buddies in the.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, they
Pete was
kicked
really
each
an
other's ass
MVP
and
of the
became best
movie
friends.
too. He had a lot of really good subtle humor. Pete did.
Yeah,
I believe that was his name, the deputy guy. I especially like the scene where David Arquette punches the mayor, and then Pete's out there and he's like, "Nothing to see here, people. Nothing to see. Just curve this way, about 20 meters away from the scene of a misdemeanor." It's like,
right, yeah.
It's just a misdemeanor. Nothing to report on.
Scene of a misdemeanor.
He seemed like such a good-natured dude that really found it very awkward to be a law enforcement officer. But since it was such a sleepy little town, it wasn't, it was a job that he could perform moderately well. When she told him to bring all those weapons too, he certainly didn't skimp on it.
Yeah.
And at first he was kind of like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, just do it. Okay.
And he thought it was like spring cleaning or something.
You gotta love too how Pete, when he showed up at her house, he barely sees like. Good.
They had Lee Harvey Oswald's rifle.
Well, my favorite thing about him is when he shows up at the sheriff's house, he barely catches a glimpse of something crawling onto his car in his rearview mirror, but Pete is just down to pull out his sidearm and shoot directly through the roof. Like, he doesn't even need to visually confirm that this is a giant spider that crawled up there. Could have been really any number of things from the view that Pete got, but he was just like, "There's weirdness afoot, and I'm fucking facing it head on right here."
I'm just
he
gonna
just
shoot
shoots that fucking hole in his roof and gets slimed. I love it.
Yeah, that song was funny.
So Pete was down to bring the ruckus, dude. Which
I tell you though,
for sure.
I think one of my favorite parts in terms of the of his particular. It's not really a particularly well-structured bit of dialogue, but it works perfectly. And that's the part where he and Harlan end up next to each other outside the mall, and all these spiders are over there and they're out of ammo. And it is like, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? Let's just go back inside. Let's go back inside." Oh, locked. That's okay. Plan B. Right. Yeah. Tell you what, we're gonna run away.
Okay, sounds good to me.
It's like, that seems like a good solid plan.
Plan B,
it kind of made
run
me
away.
wish that him and Dougie Doug could have been in more scenes directly together in the movie. If I'm honest, like, there was supposed to be a sequel to this very briefly, but sadly it's never happened. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't still.
16-legged freaks.
All day, dude. So yeah, Onslaught on the well, really not an onslaught. basically Scarlett Johansson gets attacked by a spider while they're downstairs being clued in on the fact, or at least the sheriff is, that this shit is real. It's not just
Yeah,
kid
that
making
was a great
stuff up.
scene.
Yeah, it was.
David Arquette tries to help, gets webbed up right along with her. But they're eventually able to deal with it, but they definitely need to call in help because all
the
these
sheriff
spiders are
shoots
like
the
heading
spider
down
and
towards the town.
he's just like, "Thank you."
I think this is the point where they realize that they're cut off to outside communications other than their two-way radios or whatever.
Yeah, they already
So
they already knew that the phones were off, so
so the kid, I think, gets the bright idea to go to Dougie Doug's little Airstream trailer where he broadcasts his pirate radio show and use his shit to basically broadcast out to the town to let them know what's going on. So what do you guys think of that whole sequence there with the trailer and the town and them realizing that
I like the diner scene. You know, that they're broadcasting it.
And they're not believing
anything. And the diner, like, yeah, right. Okay, whatever.
It's just his show.
Yeah, the catch being that Harlan is the county nut. Like, he is the conspiracy theorist. He is the
aliens.
He is like, he's like Mulder and the lone gunman rolled up into one and times 10, pretty much.
But see, once they start getting
offended by the idea of anal probes.
Very much so, yes.
Well, I can't blame him there.
Well, when they're
we can find up there.
I love that little speech he gives about what are they even looking for.
Yeah, right.
I love his reasoning too, that since they're a bunch of ostriches with their heads in the sand, it leaves them no choice but to probe their butts. That's fucking, I am signing off on every syllable of that.
I missed him saying that one.
Well, when all the diner people are like thinking this is just funny, then once the trailer starts getting attacked and they're hearing the mic is still open and they're hearing all of this, they seem to be changing their tune, you know?
Yeah. I thought that was pretty beautifully handled, honestly. You know, beautifully executed with them, like, obviously thinking it's bullshit for good reason at first, but then as it gets more serious, they're like, wait a minute.
They're like, yeah, wait, what?
and then all of a sudden you see people running around everywhere and spiders jumping around and chasing people, and then it's looking out the diner like, what the fuck is going on? They're still not moving or anything. They're just standing there watching until the spider like jumps in and jumps on one of the people, and they didn't even try to help them. They were just like, "Come on, yeah."
Yeah, fuck that. One thing the film really has to get credit for is making the random townsfolk have quite a bit of character too. I don't feel like any of them are just generic townsfolk. Like, it almost feels, especially at the end when she yells at them to get ready for the spider to come in, it almost feels like a live action South Park crowd or something. You know?
Like, I said, get ready. Oh, okay. I like that barber dude. Because he's just like, somehow he kept surviving until he finally got it, but he just kept hiding until,
Well, and with that one local yokel dude in like the brown coat and the trucker cap or whatever, the guy that's sitting at the table in the diner, like he has a little mini story arc in the movie real quick where like he, goes from thinking it's bullshit to realizing it's real to like being creative about escaping to making it over there to the mall and becoming part of like the defense of the town. It's like a little mini arc inside of the movie for this townsfolk person.
We gotta mention his escape, because that, of course, they're all running out the back of the diner, and that's that scene I was talking about, that really cool scene where all the trapdoor spiders had set up their traps in the lot, and all these people are just going zoop, 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 zoop. And then he gets the idea of throwing a ladder down over top of one and running across. And it's like, dude, you're not a total yokel.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
It's one of two, I call them Indiana Jones moments in the movie. The other one being obviously the badass, like, zip line at the end.
Well, of course, you forgot to mention the spider going, as you ran over him.
Oh, I love it. Or they cough and stuff as well, which is just hilarious. Like, that's where the noises they made really started making me laugh, was where they're like coughing.
Oh, when they get hurt, they're like, like a dog noise.
If we're to be perfectly honest, spiders that size would not be soundless, but they wouldn't be making vocalizations.
Oh no!
If we want to be
that's what
perfectly
makes the
honest,
movie
spiders
fun.
of any size aren't
what I
probably
thought.
soundless. They just don't make sounds at a frequency that we can hear. But if you're like a
They're
little
not
tiny
loud
bug
enough.
that a spider would eat, it probably makes all types of sounds that you can hear, you know,
Right.
or whatever they have. That
But to be fair,
constitutes
these big
hearing.
spiders were eating people, so
It's great. And the voice cast we did allude to, but Frank Welker, I know, was one of them, who you guys know as voices of half of your fucking childhood. Maybe someone else with a more stable internet connection can pull it up again real quick. But there's a couple other pretty well-known voice actors that also contributed voice work for the spiders. So you'd be they probably have the most extensive credits of anybody in this movie. And they're the people that did the sounds for the spiders, you know, which is crazy to think about. Is Frank Welker's Optimus Prime, isn't he?
I believe so, but I'm wondering, I don't think IMDb lists the spider voices.
That's
Maybe
whack.
it's listed
It should,
somewhere else.
The wiki had it.
The wiki had it? All right. Let's see here.
When I'm looking up things.
I mean, you can just tell when you listen to some of the sound effects.
Here we are, yeah.
They're doing for the spiders that it's like, I've probably heard half of these voices before.
Rob Paulson, Kevin Michael Richardson. Kevin Michael Richardson's been in a shit ton of stuff.
And Frank Welker.
So we've got an Animaniac and an Autobot, right?
Right.
Actually, I was gonna say we've got the voice of Raphael and Donatello, the Shredder, and Toka and Razor. All ninja. They've all got Ninja Turtles on their resume.
Nice.
There you go. Yeah.
And
I mean, it's
of course,
literally voice acting royalty.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
After scanning the IMDb page, one person is listed as Monster Voice, and they were in Lost. I've never heard of them before, but they were in Lost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so Kevin Michael Richardson replaced Harry Shearer as Dr. Hibbert on The Simpsons. He's been in a crap ton of stuff in the Seth MacFarlane series, the various ones of those. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. Yeah, like you said, some big names there doing spider noises.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cat too.
Isn't Michael Richardson like Kratos too?
That sounds right. I feel like maybe. I don't know. I'm not super well versed in voice acting. I knew when I read them, at least two of them I super recognized. I'm guessing that's Frank Welker and Robert Paulson.
I recognize all three of them.
I've actually met and seen Robert Paulson in person at a voice acting panel at Comic-Con. That was
nice.
Neat. So I've met one of the spiders. Several of them, probably. Several hundred of them, I would imagine.
This is funny. The original release date of this movie was changed because it was competition with Ice Age. Yes, I'm sure the same crowd would have been going to this and Ice Age.
In competition with Ice Age?
No, it was funny. Funny was they had moved to avoid competition with Spider-Man since they both came out that same summer.
There was several references to Spider-Man in here, though. If you guys noticed, she calls one of the spiders Spidey at one point before she blows it away, which could be looked at as kind of like a dig at Spider-Man. And then later on, when the big tarantula is trying to break into the thing, Pete, yeah,
there were a couple of Spider-Man jokes in this, and they were definitely Spider-Man jokes because wasn't that like the biggest movie at the time?
Spider-Man was huge. It obliterated opening weekend records, and it was also just huge for a while.
As well as should have been.
Yeah, it's also still a surprisingly great movie.
Indeed.
I do love that original trilogy of Spider-Man flicks.
Actually, Ghost World and Spider-Man were the first two movies I saw 3 times in theaters.
There you go. So basically, they end up getting rolled in the Airstream while they're delivering their message out to the public. There's really great stuff of basically Dougie Doug not wanting to accept that they are just regular spiders throughout the entire movie, so he keeps referring to them as aliens. And one of my favorite parts is where David Arquette's just like, "Fine, they're spiders from Mars." Does
Hey,
that
happy?
work? You know?
I love when the trailer gets knocked over and he's like, "Man, I'm still making
I
payments."
still
on
had 4 payments on that shit. Like, that's fucked up. He was so close to paying it off, man.
that. Right? Hope we got insurance.
Isn't that the way it always goes?
Spiders are on their way to town, man. Go ahead.
We do hear the mayor say that later on with the mall. Like, I
Yeah,
hope insurance will cover this.
Yep.
Oh, that's so sad.
How would you
That the
make
mall
that
got
claim?
fucked.
My house
Right.
just got destroyed by a giant spider.
Exactly.
Just say spiders.
I think wouldn't
I would just
that
tell
would
them
probably
that they
fall under
deposits.
act of God.
Yeah, but usually act of God isn't covered under insurance. So
I love how
So
later Arquette's character is up on the tower and he's calling 911 and they're like, "Sir, this is an emergency line."
we're hanging up now.
Right.
They're here! But they're here!
But there.
Great
Dougie's
callback
like,
to some of the stuff from that era that this is spoofing.
I mean,
Yeah,
if they had more balls,
definitely.
they would have said it was a terrorist attack, and assistants would have shown up real quick, and then just found out it was
Right.
a spider on the scene. But they didn't want to bring the movie down with some shit like that. So they kept it,
Right.
I guess, realistic to the context of the joke. Of course, nobody in a neighboring town is going to believe that shit.
yeah. Well, what
And
do
they
you mean,
couldn't.
giant
And they
spiders?
couldn't pull the same. They couldn't pull the same joke from Scary Movie. That would have been too obvious.
I think them having it sort of reversed towards the end, where it turned out that all the conspiracy theorists that worked as first responders
Right.
to Dougie Doug's show were actually the people that showed up.
Right.
Right.
They do get a town full of first responders, which it always makes you wonder, I guess, about if they're all conspiracy
You
theorists.
could also argue the fact that they go straight to the. There was a little Dawn of the Dead vibes almost for a
Yep.
minute where they
Yeah.
hole up in the mall. I really did like that. I thought that was a cool touch.
Mhm.
And it was working pretty well for a minute until they brought in that fucking big ass tarantula to basically serve as the battering ram to let in the smaller troops, which again parallels Lord of the Rings. I feel like most of my life is going to be doing that as I'm reading
Mhm.
books, but I think that's just because there's so much shit in those that you could find parallels to in a lot of stuff. But
Almost
I
great
especially do
parallel.
love that scene, where they have the full-on fucking clash with the spiders as they are invading and whatnot.
And that is one aspect of the movie where science takes a holiday. Because you get that many giant spiders in one location, they're not going to be too concerned about all the people.
Right, yeah, they'd probably start eating each other maybe, or just fucking.
Or both.
Yeah, both. That sounds like a
I
regular
mean, that's
party,
what Black
man.
Widows do, right?
That made for a very different movie, though. It's just
Yeah, well, these were some of them were actually really smart spiders, and some
Well,
of them
right.
were pretty dumb. But
But it's like I
Like
said, they
Jake
were
said,
banding
science
together
just
and
takes a
working
holiday.
together as a unit, which is really strange, but it made for an interesting thing.
Yeah, the animal behavior in this is what? But that's standard for most monster movies, so I think it was probably fine. It would have been nice to get a little bit more like spider behavior, but I think we can probably let it go considering the tone of this film.
Yeah, and it would have made it mad boring. Most spiders just kind of chill
Well,
around,
I
and do
don't
what
know.
they need, and then just chill around. Like they don't.
I don't know about-
just go on ravenous killing sprees for the most part.
I don't know.
At
It
least
would have
not that
been
I've ever
mad
seen.
boring because there's still this is again an element of disconnect, an element of this is just a silly movie helps because otherwise we'd have been watching a movie with all these big ass spiders.
I'm not saying spider behavior isn't interesting. Like it would have been nice to have a little bit more of it, but it's not like it was like mega important. I guess was just what I was
Right.
trying to say.
Yeah,
No,
it's not
no,
gonna
it's
lead
it's
to
like
a
I
bunch
said,
of
it helps it to be a
crazy
fun
action
movie
stuff.
rather than a terrifying movie. If they wanted this to be the scariest shit we ever saw, then yes, they should have made them act like real spiders.
And have
That
them
being
make
said,
like
there are a
sounds the
couple of
way they did,
sequences with
that tones it down.
And had more bigger tarantulas.
yeah. Let's get you in there a bit, Dustin. You haven't talked much for a while. What you got to say, buddy?
Oh well, I was mostly just agreeing with Jake's point. Yeah. So I figured I'd just the discussion's actually been going pretty well, like just letting it flow organically. So I've just been kind of kicking back and letting you guys go, and everybody's really pleasing me tonight, actually. So I'm liking how
Good
we're
deal.
just sticking to the point and keeping it flowing. But we should probably start leaning towards the end. So
we're pretty much there. One thing I will say before we dive into whatever you're going to lead us into is there are a couple of scenes where the spiders do look legitimately terrifying. One of which would be when the little kid first sees the queen spider crawling around back in the mines when he goes to investigate. Legit gave me like goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then the scene where it pins Scarlett Johansson to the wall and is like right in her face, all
Recruiting
alien
her.
style. That was also real cool. I'm pretty sure also almost entirely practical effects as well. So kudos.
Well, the spider itself, I think, was CG in that, because that was one of the moments that stuck in my mind as like, ooh, that didn't age well.
Maybe it was just the crappy quality I was able to stream at with my internet, but it looked real good. It probably looked good to me back in the day on like a tube TV as opposed to a flat screen. You know,
I think it probably did look good back in the day. I'd say relative to other CG from that era, it's aged decently. Like I've seen much worse from that era, and I've seen better.
Yeah, it feels gross, so that's how you can, there's some life in it. It's not just like, some basic CG job. Maybe not as, current quality, but I don't know, looked real good. Streaming at 480p or whatever I was working with.
And another scene, I don't know if we touched on it yet, like the thing with the cat, like I remember that very specifically from the trailer, where the spider and the cat are like fighting, and the spider is just like pushing the cat like into the wall and making like cat-shaped impressions.
Yeah, and it's fit. Yeah,
Right.
I
it's
feel like I do remember.
It's very fake looking, but at the same time, it kind of puts you at ease that these aren't going to be like terrifying spiders. It gives you an idea of like the level of violence we're working with here.
Yeah, exactly. I think like I said, some of those ostriches are legitimately scarier than the spiders. They can disembowel you, man. Those things don't play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess the finale of the movie really is just them eventually giving up on this idea of, radioing for help. And they learn because the mayor sneaks off this secret escape route into the dungeons below or the mines, that they can just go ahead and follow him on down there. That's where they're reunited with Wade.
But he locks the door.
And he does. Yeah, he's totally fucking them up.
That's where I thought he was such an like before that he wasn't too bad, but that's where I thought he was a real dick. right there was
true enough.
Door behind him.
But they all get down there all the same. And pretty much the plan becomes to, just lead all the spiders down through there chasing after them while they kind of break some light bulbs and set it up to be where they can reach this generator house on the end that they're going to find by following these cables and blow the whole sumbitch up by turning on the lights. Along the way, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to mention the guy leading point, I guess, was the grounds guy or the janitor or whatever for the mall.
Yeah.
And
Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. Yeah, that was cool to see him make a fucking cameo in this movie.
And I gotta say, like, maybe this was just me, and I was setting myself up for unreasonable expectations or whatever. But there were two times where it's like where he's looking outside the mall and he sees all the spiders. And then there's the part where he's in the mines and he sees the spider right in front of him and that ends up killing him. And it's like he's got those glasses on, and then he slowly reaches up these thick glasses, like the bottle cap glasses, so he could see better. And it would have been a great little bit of visual humor. And it had been so long since I've seen this, I couldn't remember if he did it or not. So I was disappointed that neither time. But it would have been so great if he did that and then just slowly put those glasses back down. Like, I don't need to see that.
Yeah.
But no, he didn't.
He was still a fun character, though. I love when he runs up and gets the miner's helmet, and he's like, "Oh, cool! I've always wanted to try one." Like, he very much feels like Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys. I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched that, but
Yep, I have.
Yeah, there's even ways he says specific things that he sounds kind of like it. So I almost wonder if they weren't like subtly nodding to that show with that character. Dustin will have to let us know once he watches all the supplemental materials and whatnot. But yeah, pretty much, that's what goes down. They blow up the fucking mine. He ends up rescuing his badass aunt that smoked a bunch of cigarettes and had a really cute little dog that unfortunately also died. So they weren't just really gunning for cats in this movie.
The dog scene was great.
A dog and several ostriches in the process.
Yeah,
here we are at the end.
The mall battle was pretty good, I think, too. Like as a scene, with spiders off.
So I guess Tammy wanted me to show Lucas here for a moment.
Yeah, my niece is actually into that little dude's videos. Once I looked him up, I didn't realize that's who she was talking about. He's pretty fucking adorable. I might have to get the link from her for those plushies so I can get one for Willow.
Yeah. Oh, so you saw it?
Yeah.
He's cute, see?
It is really cute, yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, they've come out with, I guess, Lucas the spider and like a friend of him who is like a fly or something like that. And she's
Finley.
Yeah, Finley, who...
Cute.
It's a kid's show, but
I think you can find it on Lucas.com or
a lot of the original shorts are on YouTube.
So it'll show you. If you go to Lucas, it'll show you the link or whatever, because it was one of those that a starter or what is it
either a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, that was what Lucas was originally, but now you can go to like lucas.com and get it.
Nice. I'll be looking into that for sure. Now that we're all back, we can close this sumbitch out. Basically, once everybody is like led successfully out of the mines, David Arquette goes back to rescue his aunt. I forget her name. Isn't it like Edith or no? It's
Gladys.
Real sweet lady. She keeps telling him to ditch the face fuzz, and rightly so, as we've discussed. And I'm glad that she was still alive at the end. And they have, I guess, what could be the third Indiana Jones moment of the movie, where they're just tearing ass out of there on that dirt bike.
Right.
And at the end, I'm not sure if it was CGI or if it was legitimate, again, because I was probably not streaming at full crystal HD quality. But it looked like that stuntman got licked real good by that flame that they blasted out of that tunnel when he was flying out of there on that dirt bike, man. There's like a good portion at the very end of that looked very, very dangerous.
Basically, he had planted a book of matches in such a way, I guess, that when the generator started, it should have sparked the matches. That was kind of the impression I got. And it lit those spiders up. Cooked spiders.
Including the queen. I mean, it basically destroyed the whole colony. Because as Jake mentioned, they were very oddly, like all the different species moving as almost this hive mind, like giant living colony of shit. So I guess they were able to just kill all the spiders in there. The movie just kind of sort of ends after the fact. So it was very much left open for a sequel if they wanted to do one. Would have been real cool. We didn't get it. We still could. Hopefully we do. But if we don't, I'm glad this one exists. You guys have any thoughts about that final sequence before we dive into the particulars and move on to Tentacles?
Well, with him just showing off like the gold teeth, it's like the mine is open. Like we found the gold, everything's gonna be fine. Like I figured that was like a nice way to wrap it up, without really having to like shoot too much more stuff. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it gives you some hope at the end. You know, it makes it to where it's like, yeah, we at least know they got some semblance of a happy ending. I don't know if it was free of spiders, but time will tell, I suppose.
Someone said something. Mo, you might have been the one. Someone said something earlier when I was talking about the kind of person the mayor was. If he had somehow been able to maintain any position of town trust after this debacle, and even if he didn't, I'll bet he probably did try to round up some of those spiders and start some sort of like a
Zoo?
a zoo or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Or as we know from Pete, the handling of all the toxic chemicals was supposedly giving him a bunch of new growth on his bald spots. So maybe
yeah, exactly. He's like, you see that? It's all new.
Yeah, he makes his own radioactive snake oil. The mayor does, and uses that to fund like a new spider project.
I could also see him trying to. Those spiders were pretty big. I mean, I could see him trying to maybe utilize those and do like spider burgers or something like that, along with the ostrich burgers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know what?
Hell yeah, dude.
You know what they need for the sequel is a guest appearance of Spider-Man, like just somehow it pops in there.
Or maybe one of the spiders eats a dude in a Spider-Man costume at Halloween or something. That would be
something to do with Spider-Man in the second one.
I've seen it on TV one time. Some country spiders are like a delicacy or whatever. I've seen them.
Lots of people eat them. Yeah, it's
What?
Yeah, lots of people eat spiders, man. It's a thing.
No. Most people in other countries, not in the U.S.
Oh, of course, man. People in other places do other things. So that's the way the world works. I'm not trying to eat a spider anytime soon, but I don't have any of the ailments it supposedly cures, so I'm good. But you can definitely order a salted tarantula online if you really want to taste one. I don't recommend it because they sound disgusting, but you never know. You might like it. Making one into a burger seems no small feat, but I suppose if someone was mad enough to try it, I might give it a go.
or actually, no. I would imagine with the consistency, they could probably do something more like crab cakes or something like that. Like spider cakes.
Hell yeah. Or like one of those seafood boils, but it's like, that just sounds disgusting. We've taken a wrong turn here.
Yeah, you got it. Maybe conversation. I'm seeing my way out.
Right.
So, any other thoughts on the finale sequence before we jump into favorite scenes and the specifics?
I do like the added touch of the aunt like asking like the cops that she's kind of trying to hit on. It's like, do you smoke? He's like, no. She's like, good. Terrible habit. Never.
Right. Which she almost blew them up by. As soon as he unwrapped her, she went for the cigarettes and almost blew them up.
He's like, no.
But without her matches, it might not have worked at all.
No, good thing she had the matches, yes.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I guess let's run favorite characters, then we'll do favorite scenes, then we'll talk about the soundtrack and all that junk afterwards. But favorite character, if you had to pick one, go, Dave.
Trying to think. I think my favorite character is Doug.
Only right answer is Pete. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Pete's different too. Pete's a character, but I like Doug. As far as favorite scenes go, there are a lot of favorite scenes. The jumping spiders with the motocross. The fact that the whole cast didn't realize to like protect themselves before the huge spider came in. That was pretty comical. The fact that both Arquette's character and the character that Scarlett Johansson played both got wrapped up. That was pretty funny. I mean, there are a lot of scenes. I can't really pick just one because even the perfume spraying when
That
the
was
spider
funny.
reacted, that was fucking hilarious as fuck. So,
Yeah.
He saved us.
but stuff like that, when the spiders reacted to stuff was hilarious. And I don't think there's another bug movie that like does it so well, except for this movie. You know.
Yeah, I would agree. I can't think of one. I was oddly enough trying to do that for probably.
I mean, there
the
are
last 30
funny
minutes.
bug movies, but none as
Right, but
humanistic
not
as
that.
this.
Yeah, not that do it quite to the same level.
No one kept it the
Pretty much
same.
as good as it gets, yeah.
I don't know. Favorite scene for me, that it's again hard to choose. Like Dave says, there's a lot of them that are fucking great. I think it just comes down to those little subtle lines of dialogue or things that are funny, or that get called back to later. You know, it's a smartly written script for what's essentially a pretty dumb movie. If we're being honest about it, it's just a big spider movie.
Right.
They didn't need to make this as fun to just listen to as it is, but there's guys like Pete, in there with little small jokes every now and again, or the mayor, that aren't like typical punchline jokes. They're just little lines of funny dialogue that make everyone seem like more characters than they are without them needing a bunch of screen time. So I think that's probably kind of answers my favorite character and scene thing. Pete would probably be my favorite character overall because I just thought the dude was so funny. And I liked that he was just ready to choose violence as soon as he showed up without even fully identifying the creature he was shooting on his roof. It's fucking a fire through the roof of the squad car. But yeah, I don't know if I really have like a single favorite scene or character. I just really, really, really like this movie. So what about you, Forrest?
All right, favorite characters. I would probably say definitely Dougie Doug is Harlan Griffith as well. I have to agree with Dave Dave on that. Also, I'd say David Arquette is Chris too. Favorite scenes. Yeah, I have to agree. There's a lot of good moments here. I would say, but for me, the ones that take the cake are the dirt bike scene, Scarlett Johansson getting cocooned by a spider, and the whole scene in the mall.
Fair choices, my friend. I really like that scene in the mall too. So Dustin, what would be your favorite character, favorite scene?
I cannot remember David Arquette's character name, but I like David Arquette because he's just kind of thrust into this. Like he's trying to do something good by reopening the mine, so he's got a little bit of depth to him.
Cleve,
and then he just gets pulled into this mess.
Chris McCormick. Yeah.
There you go.
And
sorry, no, I was listening to you.
Her favorite scene, I think it would have to be when everybody runs to the mall because the mayor is like, well, this mall sucks. Maybe everybody was right. And he's walking to his car, and then everybody fleeing the spiders comes to take refuge in the mall. And he at first thinks they're there to shop, and he's like, yes, go in.
Hell yes.
If you build it, they will come.
You build it, they will come. Yeah.
I like how he waves at the first couple people that show up.
Exactly.
Those little moments, man, in this movie where it's like they didn't have to do that. That guy probably just did it on the spot. But man, is it funny.
Yeah, it might have been that lip.
So Jacob.
Okay.
Tell us your
this is hard to choose. It's really hard to choose favorite characters or moments. I mean, really, any movie with Scarlett Johansson, she's going to be one of my favorites. I mean, just on principle, that's going to happen. And Ashley's a tolerably fun character. Her whole family. I like the sheriff. I like Mike. He's actually a fun character. I do like, again, David Arquette's always likable. So Chris is a likable character. Harlan and Deputy Pete are definitely both fun.
yes.
I just, I gotta say, probably MVP of the film though is probably that cat, because even though it died, it definitely gave that spider a smackdown.
It was raw.
My favorite character. This has a couple love to hate him characters, and definitely the mayor is one of them. But Joshua is an interesting one. I loved seeing Tom Noonan in the role. I loved his performance. It's a great cameo, but God, I hated what that character was doing. Like I said, I was deeply morally opposed to him and would loathe him on principle. But I love the cameo. I love the scenes with Mike are genuinely great geek out scenes. And I appreciate that as a nature geek myself. I appreciated that scene. So I'd almost rank that as one of my favorite scenes, is that one early on where they're geeking out over the spiders. It's just a great little scene. And then there are little moments throughout. I do love that moment where Harlan and Deputy Pete are outside the mall and they gotta act fast. And I did love that moment where that one dude figured out how to get through the trapdoor parking lot. Like I said, little moments scattered throughout. I can't really pick one that's like a Grand Slam winner, but yeah.
One that we've overlooked is where Dougie Doug is just like, he ain't getting that probe near me, and he tries to commit suicide.
His obsession with anal probes was definitely very amusing.
And evidently enough to convince the conspiracy theorists, hey, let's go kill the aliens.
Hey, yeah.
Right.
He was a big help, I guess, at least in the aftermath. I'm sure they mopped up some straggling spiders here and there.
Yeah.
But that scene where he jumped, I thought, valiantly to his death, and then he just lands in the hedges and looks like he wishes that it was a taller building. Yeah. It was such a good touch, too. Yeah.
And that was one of those great kind of moments to let you know that this is really not a movie that takes itself too seriously. And it probably helped bring, I don't know how many of y'all have seen The Other Guys. It probably helped bring us one of the greatest lines in that movie, aim for the bushes. Y'all need to see that if you haven't, but that's...
Nope, haven't seen it.
Just got a Blu-ray upgrade of it, actually, not that long.
Right. Well, basically, it had Sam Jackson and The Rock playing super cops who are chasing perps across rooftops.
Yeah.
And they get to the top of this tall building. Aim for the bushes. Next scene, it's their funeral.
Yeah, he tries to pull a Harlan and fucking just, it doesn't work out. Yeah, that was a good one, though. But, anything else you feel like mentioning, or are we on to Crawl?
Go along.
Take it away, bud.
All right. David Arquette and the sheriff are my two basically equal. I love the characters. I love the way she was a smart sheriff. She wasn't your local yokel. She was smart. She was good. She was a good shot, whether she was using a gun or the bow or the crossbow. She kept nailing him right in the head, right in the right spot to kill him.
I love that they brought a crossbow into it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yes.
Although, they can't use guns, so yeah, crossbow works fucking perfectly. It reminds you of Daryl and Walking Dead. But yeah, as far as
Wood Elves and Lord of the Rings, but
as far as scenes go, it's I love, like I said, as far as scary goes, all the trapdoor spider scenes were great. Of course, when you use the ladder to walk over that one was perfect. It was absolutely great. Like, absolutely, just
I knew the roof's going to come in handy. I just, had no idea when.
super smart. And then, it was just like everybody said, this scenes. So the whole movie is just full of great scenes, and and the cat fight in the wall was such a great scene. I mean, you don't actually see the fight, but you hear it and you watch it through the walls, and it's just so great the way they did that. It was so well done and funny, and the mall scene, the whole thing was great, of course. But when she's like, "All right, let's get ready," and they both cock their shotguns, and then she looks back at them and said, "I say get ready." and then they all got their weapons ready. It was
Yeah.
just funny as hell. But yeah, the whole
I
movie
think
had
the only
lots of
issue I
funny
had with
scenes.
the sheriff character was that how she treated that kid, but
I
maybe
don't
that's
think
just
she
me.
treated him bad. She was his
She didn't
mother.
treat him bad, but not taking him seriously at all is a bit of a stretch. I mean, he's obviously not a delinquent.
I could,
That little motherfucker was wearing a calculator watch, bro. He's like more qualified than most of us immediately just
Oh,
because
I know.
of that.
Or like that little computer program he juiced up where he was able to
Oh, yeah.
extrapolate the size of the spiders.
Dude, that
Oh,
little
yeah, I
son
mean,
bitch was
he was a lot
vlogging the
smarter
events of
than-
this movie in 2002.
He was a lot smarter than
Yeah.
fact that his mother gave him credit for. But you can understand the way she's coming from. He's watching all these horror movies, and all of a sudden, he
Oh,
thinks
come off of it.
that one of them is
And,
coming
and
true.
come on, Joshua was pretty creepy. You got to admit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't want my kid hanging around me either.
He
Despite
just has a
what-
nail condition, man. Yeah, it's not his fault.
Yeah. But
yeah, I get it. I guess I get the logic they were working with, but again, it was 2002. His mom was a cop, so you would think that would mean she would have a little more sense than like, oh, these 50s monster movies must be making you an idiot. When the kid is clearly like super smart,
Well, I didn't think she thought he was an idiot. She just thought he was using his imagination a little bit too much, and that's all it was, his imagination.
I suppose.
But
it just bugged me, man, especially how far it went when he was like clearly upset about it. Then you at least humor him enough to check it out,
yeah,
He was pretty busy though.
Yeah, exactly. She was pretty busy, but she did. He did get her back, and he used her words
He
right back
sure
at her,
did.
and she had nothing to say about. Oh, the kid was right. I mean,
I guess that might be one of my default favorite scenes or sequences.
Yeah,
because that
it
leads
was
right into the-
one of my favorite lines is just how she just tosses it. He just tosses it right back at her, and is 100% right. So he wasn't just being a
Fair enough.
smart ass kid. He was 100% right.
So Tammy, let's hear from you about your favorite character, favorite scenes.
Well, I guess other people like Doug too, Dougie Doug. But yeah, I liked him. I thought he was hilarious because he kept, they're clearly spiders, but he kept, alien invasion, and all the stupid stuff he came up with. But my other, I actually had two. The kid is my other one because he is a lot smarter than everybody's giving him credit for until Arquette's character says, listen to the kid, So, I mean, I think the kid is part of what really made things too, because he really was smart,
Agreed.
Oh, they would have been all fucked with the kid.
And he
Favorite
gave, I think,
scenes, I
Go ahead,
guess,
sorry.
well, one of my favorite scenes is right at, the first real good one, I think, with the spiders jumping and going after the guys on the motorcycle, because that's to me is what kind of started that's what kind of started everything, because you got the horror of them attacking, but then they're making noises and they're jumping all over the place, and it's kind of like you get like everything like right there to start it all off in a way, so
oh yeah,
it's, and I agree like with David that if you're gonna have a movie like this, it was done right. It had just the right amount of humor and everything else to go with it. I mean, there's been other bug movies and stuff like that, and they didn't have all of this in it. This is something like we talked about a lot earlier in the show, that you could sit down there with your 10 11 12-year-old kid and watch it, and they wouldn't get that freaked out. So, yeah, there's a lot of really good scenes too, but that's the one that stuck out. And as much as I hated the kitty cat died, it still was a great scene. It really was.
Agreed.
Gave him a
So
fight.
yeah, I guess that. What's that?
I said he gave him a fight.
Yep.
The kid is interesting too because he didn't do a whole lot. He kind of did this. Also, he's a Marvel alumni technically. He was young Matt in the Daredevil movie, which I think I subconsciously recognized him from.
Oh, really?
But he did a couple other movies and some TV shows, but it doesn't seem like he really pursued acting as,
He looks familiar. I
a
know I've
main
seen him in
focus.
something.
But he was pretty good, I liked him. He wasn't an annoying kid character. He knew what he was talking about.
He's very smart.
He provided a lot of helpful advice. Only had like one line that came off as kind of cheesy where he's like, "No, you guys, this way," or whatever. And it's like, all right, we're focusing on the kid maybe a little too much for a second right there, but that's fine. They're going to do that. One cringy scene with the kid character is better than every scene with him being cringy, and to his credit, none of them really were. And I feel like his scenes in Daredevil were pretty good too, now that I remember back on that. But yeah, so that about does it for favorite characters, favorite scenes. I guess we could talk about the soundtrack, but it's really just a lot of bro rock of the time. I'm trying to look it up right now and see if there's like a bunch of
I can't really even remember much of the soundtrack. Like the songs don't stick out, which is kind of weird.
It's just
it's
most
kind
just
of
butt
there.
rock.
She's got a bunch of new metal posters on her wall, or like I guess not even new metal, just like exactly what I just said, like early 2000s, late 90s butt rock type stuff. Yeah, and this isn't giving me any information, and my signal's not good enough that I can continue to look that up without it fucking up this stream. But soundtrack's not very memorable. Soundtrack. It's just, from nearest I can tell, it's a bunch of studio made, trash rock songs, bro rock stuff that they threw in there to just have.
All right,
music.
so
Spider on the credits was kind of cool.
The Itsy Bitsy Spider was pretty much done by Joey Deluxe, which I know Tammy really likes, and I know he's been on one other soundtrack that I know of.
That's what I was kind of getting at, though. It seems like it was like it's a produced soundtrack for the movie. It's not, despite the posters on the wall in her room. There's not a bunch of popular artists on the soundtrack. It looks like
they probably couldn't afford them.
I was gonna say they saved money there at least.
Yeah,
I think I read
precisely
they spent
the POD poster, not the song.
I think I read they spent a third of the budget on special effects or something like that. And then if you look at the cast, I'm sure Arquette was probably about the biggest star at the time.
Yeah.
They got Scarlett Johansson when she was just coming out of the gate.
And I think he was WCW champion at this point. That commands a lot of respect.
And Corey I would say Corey War was established actress by then.
True. And Dougie Doug was established, but he wasn't really a star. He was he was well known. But
I was gonna say Corey War. She was like, I think at that point, she had been on MTV and she was a prolific B movie actress.
I'm not sure what else I've seen her in.
Let's see. So I remember she was on Married with Children, Swamp Thing. She played Abigail Arcane on the Swamp Thing TV series.
One of her most recent credits is Gotham by Gaslight. I still need to see that.
She's good. She played a gypsy woman in Stephen King's Thinner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's in Sharknado too.
And she had a recurring role on 90210.
Okay, I never did see that.
Neither did I. All I did work on a film shoot with Luke Perry.
Okay, so she followed this movie with a movie called Spider's Web. I guess she had spiders on the brain that year.
I'm guessing
Hollywood
had serious
for some reason
people's dicks getting.
I would say for some reason Hollywood has associated her with spiders.
Oh yeah, she was an anaconda. Oh yeah,
I need
Oh
that
yeah, that's
stun
right.
gun
That's
fun,
right. She gets
you know
eaten.
what I
I
mean?
think she gets eaten.
yeah. Hmm.
Alrighty.
Anaconda is one I'd like to revisit someday. You guys covered that on here before my time, but
There's a pretty
Yeah,
good
We
Blu-ray
did
box
indeed.
of Anaconda.
so
it has
special
some good
effects
movies.
we've touched on variously throughout. I think that we've sort of accidentally came to the conclusion that they're as good as they need to be for this kind of a movie.
Yeah.
If you made
Yep.
them much better, it would maybe be a little bit too irky for, it'd be like too creepy crawly for most people. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but some of the stuff maybe being a bit dated sort of helps you it adds to the B movie quality of it.
Oh,
And maybe it was
totally.
Right.
intentional. Who knows?
Definitely.
I like it. I think that there's several scenes where the special effects are done well enough where it's like they could have done this the whole movie if they wanted to, but it would have made it like ungodly expensive and it would have made it take forever,
Now,
And wasn't that as good, in my opinion. So.
now
Yeah,
on this
it would-
note, I do want to ask real quick, Dustin. Am I correct in assuming that you were probably watching the Shout Blu-ray of this?
Yeah, that's why I picked it. Actually, I got this a while ago, and I wanted to make my way through the pile.
Okay. How does it look on Blu-ray? Is that
looks
why you felt
really
like it
good.
looked dated? Okay.
It looks really good. There's a few
Okay.
scenes where I feel like it was maybe supposed to be like lit a bit darker to kind of like fudge the spider effects. But other than that, I think that might be a thing with the movie itself.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I think at this point in time, we're about ready to go on to the next discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully you liked...
Which is going to cover Tentacles, which is the story of the Greek god of hentai.
Yes, as told by Italians with American actors for some reason.
And fucking, John Huston.
So hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the other channel. So, or actually, we'll see you on the same channel tonight.
Right.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Laters.
Buonanotte.
End the stream, Dave.
I'm trying.